On this Martin Luther King Jr. Day, 4 days before the inauguration of a controversial new president, Americans are taking in a bizarre spectacle, a war of words between the president-elect and a legend of the civil rights movement, Congressman John Lewis. And today, Donald Trump met with MLK's son. Covering it all, ABC's Steve Osunsami.
It's a curious time for a fight between a civil rights icon and the next president of these United States. But tonight, as Americans spend this holiday remembering the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., this is where we are. Congressman John Lewis, a beloved public servant who marched with King, has spent his whole life speaking truth to power and says that's what he's doing now. In Miami today, he underlined his bona fides.
Yes, I did get in trouble. I stood up, I spoke up, I spoke out, and I got arrested.
But this time, he's not struggling with Jim Crow, racist police, or segregated schools. He's taking fire from President-elect Donald Trump after announcing that he'll boycott the presidential inauguration and explaining why.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president. I think the Russians participated in having this man get elected.
The president-elect is responding, saying on Twitter that the legendary congressman is all talk, 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 no action or results, and should spend more time fixing and helping his district, which is in horrible shape and crime-infested. Now the congressman's supporters are fighting back. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker came out with expected praise for the congressman, saying that he's faced down some of history's most hateful. Now and then, his love and truth prevail. First Lady Michelle Obama was not far behind, thinking of Dr. King and great leaders like Representative John Lewis who carry on his legacy. May their example be our call to action. The incoming administration says that with all due respect, Lewis is wrong.
We need folks like John Lewis and others who I think have been champions of voter rights to actually recognize the fact that Donald Trump was duly elected. And I think it's incredibly disappointing, and I think it's irresponsible for people like himself to question the legitimacy of the next United States president.
Vice President-elect Mike Pence, who visited the Martin Luther King Memorial today, says he hopes Lewis will reconsider and recognize that Trump was properly elected.
To use terms like this is not a legitimate president, it's just deeply disappointing to me, and I hope he reconsiders it.
But here's the thing. The president-elect has been accused of doing this exact same thing for years, publicly questioning whether President Obama was even born in this country and whether he had a right to be president at all.
He could have been born in Kenya, could have been born, some people think, Indonesia. Why doesn't he show the birth certificate?
You have to understand how strongly it was felt in the African American community that what Donald Trump was doing was questioning whether a black man could be a legitimate president.
That issue alone is seen as a major offense to many black Americans who more than any other group voted for the president-elect's competition. Fighting with John Lewis doesn't help the outreach.
We're going to rebuild our inner cities because our African-American communities are absolutely in the worst shape that they've ever been in before, ever, ever, ever.
In Lewis's district, which covers much of metro Atlanta, the headline in the paper shares the feeling that Trump is wrong about the city.
There are pockets of crime in every city, but to say it's very bad here, it's not.
We aren't crime-ridden or anything like that. We are a beautiful city of people.
Does he owe this city an apology?
Of course he does. He owes the Lewis family an apology, not just the city.
The president-elect wrote that Lewis's congressional district is falling apart. But this is home to Delta, Coca-Cola, and the third largest concentration of Fortune 500 companies in America.
If Donald Trump really had taken the time to take a look at John Lewis's district, there's no way you come out of that thinking that it's falling apart or that it's crime infested.
President-elect Trump was planning to tour the new Smithsonian Museum of African American Heritage today, where Congressman Lewis is featured in some of the exhibits, but he canceled due to unspecified scheduling issues. Instead, he spoke about the holiday on Facebook, saying that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. lifted up the conscience of our nation, a towering leader in his day and a lasting inspiration for all generations to follow. Trump had a meeting today with Martin Luther King III, who told ABC's Tom Yamas that it's time to make peace with the incoming administration.
Were you offended by the president-elect's tweet that Representative Lewis is all talk and no action?
Well, I think that in the heat of emotion, a lot of things get said on both sides. And I think that at some point, I am, as John Lewis and many others are, a bridge builder. The goal is to bring America together.
Congressman Lewis has been here before under similar circumstances. He sat out the inauguration of President George W. Bush. With just 4 days left before the inauguration, at least 35 Democrat lawmakers have come out saying they won't be participating on Friday, some of them pointing to the fight with John Lewis as their reason.
I decided not to attend on Wednesday after the president-elect's press conference. I was really shocked that the president attacked John Lewis in such a way, particularly on Martin Luther King weekend.
Lewis has been called the conscience of the U.S. Congress, a living link to Martin Luther King Jr., and he's earned respect from both sides of the aisle.
John Lewis is a hero. He not only personally suffered for the rights of African Americans and really all Americans, but he has then taken his passion into public service and spent decades working to make America a better place.
Even the vice president-elect has called him a legendary civil rights leader. They're seen here together at the 45th anniversary of the March on Selma. At the 50th anniversary in 2015, Congressman Lewis joined thousands in a symbolic march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge once more.
We know the march is not yet over. We know the race is not yet won.
This is where John Lewis and others marching for voting rights were beaten down on Bloody Sunday by Alabama police in 1965.
Get out there and push and pull until we redeem the soul of America.
He still has the scars from the beating, the wounds marked down in history and featured in the movie Selma.
For Donald Trump to suggest that John Lewis is someone who's all talk and no action, just once again just sort of shows you how little he actually knows about people outside of his bubble.
Today at a King holiday event in Miami, the congressman said no words about the president-elect, speaking instead on how important it is to inspire future leaders.
I said to you as young men, the future leaders of this state, the future leader of this nation, the future leader of the world, you must never, ever hate. The way of love is a better way.
It's the righteousness of his past that is the source of his strength. Last year, after the Orlando nightclub killings, Lewis defied the rules and led a sit-in on the House floor.
What is the tipping point?
Protesting what he said was the lack of action over gun control.
Never give in. Stand up. Speak up. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have a moral obligation to do something, to say something, and not be quiet.
He's promising to be disobedient. For Nightline, I'm Steve Osunsami in Atlanta.